Around my second year in Harvey, I had a basketball court built in my backyard for my kids from my previous marriage. They came up every summer to visit with me for a few weeks or so. I had the court built due to the fact of the neighborhood park being constantly crowded and often the center of gang activity. My choice was either to go with them to the park every single time they went or create some type of activity at home. So after pulling a few strings and the help of our Father's grace, I was able to have the basketball court built for my kids. The basketball court was fixed up pretty nice for what was once a large dog kennel area. I painted the court and gave it a nice graffiti type look. The court was even enclosed with a 6-foot privacy fence and lock, so my kids were able to play safely all day long without any concerns. Originally, I had the court built just for my kids, but they were only with me a few weeks out of the summer. However, the kids from the neighborhood, they took full advantage of the court spring, summer, fall, and winter. In the summer and on the weekends, the doorbell assault at my house began as early as 8 o'clock in the morning. Don't get me wrong, 8 o'clock in the morning is a wonderful time of the day, just not for a yard full of kids. When they came, they would literally stay on the court all day long. On many nights, they would often ask if I could turn on the backyard lights so that they could continue to play. I remember having to tell kids to go home on many nights. While my house may not have been the YMCA or the Boys Club, it was a much-needed space that provided a much-needed opportunity for the kids on the block. In fact, there were even some kids from other parts of the neighborhood that would often stop by. For quite a while, the court made a real impact on the neighborhood, but I guess good things don't last but so long. I enjoyed providing these kids with an outlet, but it sometimes felt like a job. On many days, there would be an average of 8 to 10 kids in my yard, which for some reason really upset my neighbors. From time to time, my neighbors would literally ask me, "How would you allow those little hoodlums to be in your yard?" And I would simply reply, "If they're in my yard playing basketball, then apparently the little hoodlums won't be out there causing any trouble." Oddly, a few of my neighbors didn't like that, which I thought was really crazy. I just figured if no one else was going to do something, then I would. The most important thing was to set boundaries. My only demand was that the kids abided by the rules of the yard. If you got into any trouble, then you weren't allowed to play on the court. If you started fighting or used profanity, then you were kicked off the court. I wanted no sagging, I wanted no gangbanging, I wanted no nothing. Just play ball. Since the kids really loved coming over to play, the rules worked out pretty well for quite a while. The kids always kept themselves together, at least in my presence. I had no problem maintaining this outlet until... Wow. Kids don't stay kids forever. It was unfortunate that those once manageable little guys on the block were now becoming unmanageable teenagers, and basketball wasn't the only game they were playing. Over half the kids on the block were dealing with the pressures concerning gang. On one hand, you had the nervous pressure from your parents to stay out of the gangs. Then on the other hand, there was the fearful pressure to join gangs in order to be protected from other gangs. Lastly, need I mention the simple peer pressure for some of these kids to try to fit in. A kid once told me gangs were like a spider web. Sooner or later you're going to run into one. I was like, wow. The kids on my block proved to be no exception. On my block, they had their gang as protection against other gangs in the area. As I witnessed their numbers grow each day, that's when I realized, as so famously quoted by Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, we're not in Kansas anymore. Things were now taking a serious turn. At this particular point, it marked the beginning of a 5-year kids gone wild moment in my life. They had literally gotten out of control. So of course, the basketball court had to be closed down. At some point, I was informed that the guys were getting involved in all sorts of mayhem and then using the basketball court as a hideout. This became evident to me one day when I was out back playing basketball with the kids. I happened to notice 2 cars kept circling the alley. When I asked if anyone knew who were in the cars, one of the teenagers said, "Kings." Apparently they had gotten into a beef with the Latin Kings, and I guess they thought coming to the court would give them a hiding space. That was all it took. Enough was enough. Although it hurt me badly, I temporarily closed the court for the safety of everybody. Unfortunately, over the next 5 years, things never recovered. They only got worse. Due to the constant drive-bys, many kids started staying inside the house more, or going to other neighborhoods to hang out and play. The kids and summer fun were now all gone. The sound of laughter and the basketball hitting the court was all a distant memory. It had now been replaced by the reality of angry teenagers, guns, and mayhem. Why do kids have to grow up?